Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hilman bin Razali. Lastly, I want to talk about decentralization of power. I will cover definition, factors, policies, phases, and failure of its execution. First, based on these three definitions, I can conclude that the decentralization means a procedure, a revolution of all policies by the British administration in Malaya in terms of administrative, legislative, and financial policy authority due to the complaints and denounced of among the Malay rulers in the Federated Malay States who felt their power and position is diminishing. Despite the Malay ruler has been less visible, there is another factor that contributes to the decentralization. First, the Malay community in non-federal states start to know the negative effect of Federated Malay States. And also the Malay community show an anti-British sentiments because most of them are educated from the Mecca and East countries. So they brought the spirit of nationalism among people to against the British. And Malay rulers also in non-federated Malay state were very powerful compared to Malay rulers in federated Malay state, especially in administration and financial affair, because there are four Malay rulers who share the power in a one union. In a way, British to maintain the position in Malaya, British start to decentralize the power. So the policy is restoring the power of Malay ruler. We can see since in 1903, Sultan Idris denounced a centralized administration at the Conference of Malaya because he know Malay ruler start to lose their power, position and authority. So British established a Malayan Bureau of Political Intelligence in 1921 for regulating all political activities in Malaya. This scenario was able to return power to the Malay states, position of the Malay ruler, returning their loyalty and allegiance people to Malay rulers so that people adhere to the British administration. And also British from British Malaya, we can call it Pan Malaya, represented by the Sir William George Maxwell. The plan was reported to the State of Colonial Office in London, because we need to know that every single task and suggestion that brought by the British, they will certainly take some advantage of the Malay economy. For instance, the British monopolized the economy of Malaya and had a wider investment field, so it was contribute to the British income. And the Pan Malay also blocked the Turkish influence among the Malay community because the British doesn't want the spirit of nationalism to be channeled to the people of Malaya. So the policy is able to meet the wishes and demand of the Malay rulers, residents, and eliminate the anti-British sentiments. So the decentralization of power start with the George Maxwell. He is a resident general, had more experience in Malaya. He can speak Malay fluently. On March 5, 1921, he became Chief Secretary of Federated Malay States and established the Central Power Distribution Committee. He aimed to distribute the state government for the position of residents, Malay rulers, and the State Assembly Council. Some suggest that the government must control fully in financial aspect. Some also increase the power of residents so that it will be equivalent with the residents in general. Several departments, for instance, the Department of Medicine, Department of Forestry, Department of Police, also transfer to the authority of the state government. Meanwhile, these suggestions were not successful because they emphasize the genuine goal of decentralization. And the phase of decentralization continued by Sir Lawrence Gilmer at the end of 1924 because British appointed him to continue the policy. This was triggered after Sultan Iskandar visited to London and expressed his dissatisfaction with the administration of decentralization led by the Maxwell. So Gilmer dissolved the position of the Secretary General at Council members for the meeting to 13 official and 11 unofficial. Gilmer also transferred all departments to the state administration, divided financial matters, established 3 committees. So his suggestion had fully support by the Malay rulers. We cannot deny that there are people who against them, and many obstacles prevent the decentralization to be executed. First, harassing the British administration. Second, resistance from the European, because Europeans have a stereotype that the Malay rulers and the Sultan incompetent in dealing with the land. They need to deal with the sultans because previously the land had established and deal with, by the residents in dealing with the large European organization. And the failure of decentralization also get by opposition from non-Malay, for example, Chinese and Indian. Because back then, the representative of Chinese, his name was Chiu Kia-peng, that voiced his concern during the Federal Assembly Council about the public service system. Okay, at this point, because the majority of them was Chinese, they will be replaced by the Malay. And the conflict between Maxwell and Wilmot, they start to accuse one another. For example, Maxwell accused Wilmot that it is his fault to approve many allocations that consume a lot of expenses, and members of the new committee did not support Wilmot policy and a new tenure of leadership in the British Far East Command, because previously it was a leader in the British Far East Command. He supported the decentralization of power. Start 1926, a new leader replaced by Alice Walters. He 100% reject the decentralization of power because he argued that the decentralization of power did not meet benefit the future of the Malay, because it kept the heart of the Malay rulers. As a conclusion, the federal administration pattern in the Federated State of Malay prior to 1920, which is 1895. British aimed to combine the Federated Malay States into a union, a centralized and efficient federal bureaucracy. This bureaucracy had no relation with Malay society, controlled by Europeans, paid for by non-Malay taxation, and absorbed much of the power of the residents, and financial and legislative authority left to the state councils. After the First World War, British sought to loosen the federal administration to permit the Malay rulers in state affairs. The decentralization of power during both Maxwell's era and Wilmot's era attempt to enact policies was failed. This demonstrated that foreigners had greater sway than Malay rulers and the Malay population at large. That's all our group. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.